In this build series I'm going to build a slightly smaller printer than this. It's going to be 300 by 600 and I'm going to optimize some of the custom parts and make it easier to build, and it's going to be cheap. I have received a larger flex plate for the printer but haven't installed it. To keep the cost down I'm going to use some recycled parts and also some recycled ideas, like from this Voronezh 1. A printer I really enjoy using, and it's now enclosed as you can see, and it prints ABS and ASA beautifully. I have sold my P1S printers and this is doing an excellent job replacing those. The Voronezh 1 has a 0.4 nozzle. The Voronezh 2 is similar, but I replaced the rods with MGN rails. That didn't really improve the print results, but it's a good printer and it's 0.6. And I'm going to use 0.6 nozzle on the new printer as well. I have a 0.8 nozzle on the large Lemon Breeze printer, and that's saving some time, but sometimes I would like a little bit more detail, and I think 0.6 is a good compromise. The new build will use some components from all of these previous printers, and I'll see if I can improve it. One improvement I'm going to make is to move the rod and the lead screw a little bit closer to the center. Designed some new motor mounts. It's only 25 millimeters, but I think it's a good thing. I wasted some space in the y-axis on the large build, and I'm going to remedy that by removing lugs like this one. I will now have some internal bolts attaching this Y motor mount to the extrusions. It will save a few millimeters in Y. And it's a smaller part to print and you don't need any supports. This was printed in Filamentum ASA. When I first built the printer called Lemon Breeze, I didn't really have a proper CAD drawing or a complete drawing. I had this very basic drawing and it wasn't to scale, and that bit me later on in the build because this extrusion wasn't long enough and I didn't take into account the idlers or any of the motor mounts, any of that stuff, so I sort of winged it. And I borrowed a lot of parts from my two other builds, the Voronezh 1 and the Voronezh 2, as I mentioned in the introduction. But it's really lacking, and some parts of this is some ideas I never used. I never went for these belted Z solutions on this printer anyway. So with the new printer I decided to change all this. And this is the new printer. It's called RIFF. If you have a better name, please let me know. I've sort of removed most of the Voron cues in this one, and I don't really want it to be called anything like Voron. I know some people wanted me to call the other one for the Vorlong, which was a quite good suggestion, but this one it's a Cartesian printer. It's not really anything similar to Voron anymore, except for maybe some of these skirt details and stuff like that. On the front there'll be some beefy idlers. These are modified and these are for 9mm belts. I'm going to use a dragon burner, and as I've done in my previous builds I'm going to have an electronics enclosure with the SKR Pico somewhere. I'm not sure where I'll put that. And then the SKR 1.4 will be down here, and a standard display. Will be a couple of power supplies and a couple of MOSFET boards. I really like this way of having panels that I can remove individually, because that makes it very easy to have access to all the electronics without turning the printer upside down or removing a complete large panel. And you could debate, maybe I don't need this caddy anymore, as I have very good access to all the electronics from under these panels. But I'm still going to keep it on this build. And if we look below, this is pretty similar to what I've done before with the MOSFET boards and the caddy for the electronics SKR 1.4. There are of course a lot of details still missing in this drawing, but my plan is to add things to this drawing and also get the modified custom parts integrated into this. In my previous build I had these different CAD versions all over the place and didn't really have anything updated or complete at the end of the build, which I guess is okay for a prototype, but this is not supposed to be a prototype. This is something I hope people will be able to build, and that means I have to do a better job of documenting at least part of this build. From that we'll get on to the parts I'm going to use. We'll take a look at the parts for this build, and I obviously have extrusions. Some of them are old, like these ones, already cut, and some new that I need to cut to the correct length. I'm also using some of these in corner plates. They are the same ones as you'll see on the front of the large printer. They'll go on like this. I'm using 3 types of fasteners. This one that you have to slide in advance. These drop in, and these also drop in. They're more expensive than this one, and this is the cheapest one. I will use all 3 wherever it's practical. Some of these parts came off Alphawise U20 second-hand printer, like this mains inlet with switch and cabling and this power supply. And also some of these stepper motors. These are longer stepper motors. I'm going to use these 4 on Z. This one will be on X. It's just a no-name stepper motor. These 2 will be used for the Y motors. I use these in the large printer as well. They're working quite well. And for the extruder, it's going to be this one. Pretty typical for a dragon burner or a stealth burner. Electronics, that will be a small display, and the Pico, SKR Pico, and the SKR 1.4 with 2209 stepper drivers. For controlling the heat beds, I will use these MOSFET boards, and the advantage of doing that is that I can keep the control current small and have some pretty tiny cables going from the controller boards to these. I have 1 extra power supply for heat bed number 2. And if we look at the heat beds, these are the ones I'm going to use. Nothing special. I got these as these are spare parts for discontinued printer. I paid about $30 for 2 of these heat beds, and these are 300 by 300. I'll use lead screws that came off some old printers. I haven't decided which ones to use yet, but I need 4 of these. And I need 12mm rods. I'm still waiting for the 4th one. These 3 came off some old printers. And the same with the MGN 12 rail. This is for X-axis. I haven't received the 2 for the Y-axis. And the MGN rails for the Y-axis, that's going to be the most expensive part in this build. It's about $75 for 2 pieces, including shipping. And shipping has been kind of slow. I'm in a part of the world where there's not really a trade war, but it still impacts shipping from China. And I will use thrust bearings just like in the larger printer. So that's what I got now. Some things are missing, but I will get that within the next few days. And a lot of these parts are recycled. I didn't really have to buy a lot of new stuff. I've also printed most of the parts for this build. I'm pretty sure that some of these parts will have to be redesigned or changed during the build, but I have most of it already. The frame is quite simple and it's just like the Lemon Breeze printer, a combination of 2020 and 2040 extrusions. Some of these extrusions was something I had from other projects and I had to buy a few more 2020 extrusions as well. These are the lengths I'm going to use on this build. If you would like to build this a bit longer like the Lemon Breeze, you could add 300 millimeters to the Y direction, and the Z height in this one is totally random. It's just some extrusions I already had pre-cut. I'm using a simple jig when I want to cut these extrusions. They will butt up against this end of this jig and I can then be sure that I cut them at the same place. I use a Bosch miter saw for this. This is the old one I had for years. The only thing I've done is to use a different blade. This is the Bosch Expert aluminum version, and these are all the extrusions cut. I'm using blind joints in this build, and that means I need some access holes, and I use this pilot jig to drill some M3 holes. I then enlarge them with the M5 drill bit. With that done, I'm ready for the blind joints between the Y-axis and the Z-axis. These are the Z-axis. I have to tap these with M5 tap, and I do that manually and using some oil as well. I had a mix of V-slot and T-slot for my Z-axis extrusions, so I could only tap the V-slot. That was 4 pieces. The other ones I had to use some inner corners. After cleaning up after this tapping, I had all of my 4 Z extrusions ready to go for the buttonhead screws. But I'm running low on buttonhead screws. I'm not running out of T-nut plates anytime soon. I still have plenty of M5 8mm buttonhead screws, so I'll use those. Next up is getting the right height of these buttonhead screws, and these are all the extrusions prepared for assembly. I try to check that everything is square before I tighten up these extrusions. And I'm using this old trick that is just some TPU parts to use those T-nut plates I had plenty of. When I know where they go, I try to use these. They are very cheap, and as I've told you before, I'm all about doing things without spending too much money. This might seem like a little thing, but it all adds up. I'm preparing the Z extrusions. These will use these inside angles or corners, and they will slide in. And with that complete, we have one side of the frame almost completed. I have completed one side, I will start on the next. And this one is completed as well, and these two are symmetrical and identical. I'll now start on the X extrusions, and these are using these inner corners or angles, and I'm using the same trick with the TPU and the T-nuts. The corner is ready. Like this. And I'm actually attaching the motor mounts at this point because these are a part of the structural component. This will keep the lower part of the frame more rigid. The upper X extrusions will be attached with these corner plates, and I'm going to use some of these precious drop-in M5 nuts for that. And I have to tap a couple of these Y-axis extrusions to get that corner plate to attach to it. And inside of that corner will be the motor mount, and that will make this corner stronger as well. A small size comparison. This is the new frame compared to the Lemon Breeze, and as you can see it's quite a bit smaller. I brought it up to the living room to make it ready for the final inspection by the manager, and this is the manager. She's not too happy with this, but I think I'll use it anyway. Bye for now, and I hope to see you back for the next part of this build.